Amos and Hosea.
那它的名字的意思就是说，有谁能够像神一样，耶和华就是像主一样呢
？The meaning of his name, Micah, is actually who is like God, who is like the Lord.
就是说，那神在他的心中是有着一个很特别的地位的。
So we see that God had a very special status in the heart of his prophet.
那在那个世代这个弥迦的世代是一个罪恶的世代。
In that time, it was a time of sin.
所以当时的百姓呢，很多都离开神了。
Time of sin and wickedness, and it was a time when many of the people of God actually departed from him.
那神呢就兴起他来去传讲他的信息。
So God raised up his prophet Micah to proclaim his message.
那在这一卷书里头，我们可以看到这个先知的心态。
And in the book of Micah, we are able to see the heart of the prophet.
那我们也能够了解这个先知他在传讲警告时候的这种心情是怎么样的。
And we are able to understand how he felt as a prophet of God proclaiming the message at this time.
有时候我们在讲道
Sometimes when we're speaking a sermon,
我们觉得说，只要你有准备，你对圣经有一些的认识，我们会觉得说，讲道应该不是一个很大的问题。
We may think that, well, as long as you've done the relevant preparation and once you're ready, then you go up and you deliver that sermon, then it shouldn't be too much of a problem.
那我想说，那如果传道人、执事或者工人没有来的时候，你们自己要讲吗？
I think that here, if the preachers, the deacons, the workers don't come over here to support the works here, then you will also have to speak sermons yourself.
有时候在看时间表，连姐妹也要讲。
Looking at the timetable, I think even some sisters have been organized to help with sermonizing.
那我们再发觉到说，这个先知他在传讲信息的时候，他的心情是怎么样的
And when we're studying this, then we will be able to see the heart and the feelings of the prophet as he speaks the message of God.
好，那我们今天呢，就从这先知书这弥迦书来找一些重点来做我们今天的彼此勉励。
So today, what we're going to do in this session is to search out some key points from the book of Micah for our encouragement.
好，那我们先来看这第一章。
Let's first refer to Micah chapter 1.
我们看第一章的这个第9节第8节跟第9节。
Micah chapter 1, verse 8 and verse 9.
那我们请大家一起念这个弥迦书的第1章第8节跟第9节。
Micah chapter 1, verse 8 and verse 9. Let's read together.
这里是谈到说这个先知的这个心情。
Now here we see that this talks about the feelings of the prophet at that time.
我们先一起念好吗？
Is everyone there? Yeah. Can we all read together?
中文的先一起，大家念中文的一起来念。
Yeah. All those who read Chinese, let's read together.
好，一起念。
Let's read 第8节。
先知说：“因此我必大声哀嚎，赤脚露体而行，又要呼号如野狗，哀鸣如鸵鸟，因为撒玛利亚的伤痕无法医治，延及犹大和耶路撒冷我民的城门。”
好，那这里谈到这个先知他要大声的哀号或者哀哭。
Here it talks about how the prophet will wail.
就是说他为了某件事情呢感到非常的伤心。
Showing that through his wailing and howling that he is very saddened by a certain matter.
那不单只是这样，他还要侧身露体的。
Not only this, but he also will go stripped and naked.
那为什么他要这样做？
Then why will he do this?
那我们看第9节就知道了。
If we read verse 9, then we'll know.
因为当时的百姓犯上这个什么不能医治的伤。
Because the people of Judah, the people of God have an incurable wound.
所以这件事情呢，让他非常的难受。
And the fact that this situation exists is very saddening for him.
让他呢 因为这样的一件事情呢，他哀哭的哈。
which has led to him wailing and howling for them.
虽然他是一个先知，神兴起他来传讲信息。
Even though he was a prophet, he was raised up by God to proclaim his message.
那我们发觉到说，他的心真是怎么说？真是关心这些百姓的。
But we find that his heart is a heart which has that concern, that care for the people.
他也知道说，这些百姓犯上不能医治的伤啊，当然就要面对神的这怎么样的这个审判。
And he knows that since the people now have been, they have this incurable wound, then naturally they will need to face that judgment of God.
那这个伤不是一般肉体的伤。
And this kind of wound that the people have is not just like a general physical wound that we may have.
就好像耶利米先知所说的，这个伤啊，其实就是百姓所犯罪所导致的，或是所造成的一种跟神隔绝的一种状况。
But as the prophet Jeremiah explains to us, that this wound, this incurable wound of the people, has come about as a result of something which is the sins of the people, which has separated them from God.
我们来看这个耶利米书。
Let's turn to the book of Jeremiah.
耶利米书的第6章。
Jeremiah chapter 6.
我们来念第7节。
Jeremiah chapter 6, let's read verse 7.
耶利米书的第6章，我们念第7节。
Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 7.
我们一起念。
Let's read together.
等一会我们还要倒回这个米迦书的，所以你那个红线给放在那一边，这样就不会麻烦。
It's probably because we're going to come back to the book of Micah often, so you might want to put the bookmark or the red ribbon into the book of Micah so we can come back to it easily.
OK， 那我们来念第6章的第7节。
Now let's come back to Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 7.
一起念。
第7节。
今这样日子吹来，这也照样远处恶闻。在期间常听见有强盗毁灭事，并往树上也站在我面前。
那这里神借着耶利米这样说。
So God here speaks through the prophet Jeremiah, saying,
百姓的这个伤啊，藏在神的面前。
that before the Lord are their wounds.
就是说，好像神都不理他们这样看起来。
Reading this, it seems as though God isn't really doing anything about this.
那为什么会这样？
Why would this be the case?
那第7节其实说，这些百姓就好像这个井一样。溶出水来，但是这百姓所溶出来的就是罪恶。
The prophet Jeremiah describes it like as a fountain wells up with water, so the people they well up with their wickedness.
所以这个伤好像不能够得到医治。
So these wounds that she has, the people of Judah have, they are incurable.
所以当时呢，这个米迦的心肠非常的沉重。
And that's why the heart of Micah was filled with grief.
因为当时的伤是不能够医治的。
Because the wounds upon the people were incurable.
所以他因为这样为他们来哭泣。
And therefore he wept for them.
所以我们知道说这个先知的心非常的好。
We see from this that the heart of the prophet is very good to the people.
所以我们谈到关心别人的时候
Therefore, when we talk about showing care and concern for others,
不单止我们要关心我们弟兄姐妹平时的日常的需用
not only do we need to pay attention to the needs of the daily needs of the brethren,
那更重要的我们要注意彼此间的这个灵性是怎么样的
but even more importantly, we need to pay attention to the spiritual state of one another.
有时候我们发觉到说有些我们的同龄慢慢的离开了
See that sometimes some of our brethren they may gradually leave the church.
或者说有一些已经犯上很严重的伤
Or maybe they have actually been they have very serious wounds.
但是我们看得见呢
But are we able to see these wounds?
我们不能够察觉到说他们已经犯上很严重的伤或者受了很严重的伤
Are we really able to see whether they have whether they have actually been afflicted with these very serious and grievous wounds.
那如果能够看得见的话，我们一定能够为他们来祷告，为他们来悲伤。
Naturally, if we are able to discern that these wounds are apparent upon them, then we will be able to pray for them.
那对这个先知来说，传讲警告是一件怎么说痛苦的事情呢？
Thus, we see for the prophet to actually proclaim about this situation is a very painful experience.
因为他知道说这些百姓犯上这样的伤，会面对神的一个公义的审判。
Because he knows that for the people to have this incurable wound, this serious wound, then they will surely face the judgment of God.
所以我们要传讲信息或者要帮助人，应该要有这个弥迦的心肠。
Therefore, if we want to proclaim this kind of message to the people of God, then we need to have the same heart as the prophet Micah.
其实要审判人很容易的。
To be judgmental of others is very easy.
但是要帮助人却是一件不简单的事情。
But to help others is not that straightforward.
要医治别人的伤，更是一件不简单的事。
It's even more difficult to actually bring about the healing of the wounds of another person.
所以我们要帮助人呢，首先我们心态要有一个改变。
Therefore, if we want to help others, then firstly we must adjust our heart. We must change our hearts.
那这个改变呢，应该是因为我们亲近神了知道神的真理，所以我们心态改变。
And this comes about because we understand the teachings of God, we draw closer to Him, therefore this brings about the change.
我们也了解到天父的心肠。
And we can understand the heart of the Heavenly Father.
这样我们才能够真正的来去帮助别人。
And only then can we truly help other people.
好，那我想说，这个是从弥迦书可以看到的一个重点。
And I think that this is one of the key things that we can see from the book of Micah.
好，那我们再来看另外一个重点。
Let's consider another key point within the book of Micah.
有关这个弥迦的这个心肠。
Again, talking about the heart or the mentality of Micah.
我们来看这个第3章。
Let's turn to Micah chapter 3.
弥迦书的第3章。
Micah chapter 3.
我们在看这先知书的时候，有时发觉到说，好像先知在自言自语在自己对自己说话。
As we read a lot of the prophetic books, it seems that there are portions of it where they are talking to themselves.
其实不是的。
But actually, that's not the case.
他们好像自己在讲话，其实要让我们知道说他们当时的心情是怎么样。
When it seems like they are engaged in an internal monologue, actually they are trying to convey how they are feeling, what they are thinking at that time.
我们来看第3章的第8节。
Let's read Micah chapter 3, verse 8.
那3章第8节。
Chapter 3, verse 8.
一起念。
Let's read together.
至于我借主来临，才有力量、公平、才能，可以向雅各说明他的过犯，向以色列指出他的罪恶。
好，那我们在看第3章的时候，这里谈到这些领导者的恶。
When we get to Micah chapter 3, we know that he starts talking about the wickedness of the leaders of the people.
当时的先知已经变质了。
Many of the prophets had already gone. They had already become wayward.
那我们发觉到说，神要他们讲的信息，他们没办法讲出来。
And as a result of this, the messages that God wanted them to convey, they were not able to convey them.
神告诉当时的先知说：“你要告诉百姓说，神的灾难来了，神的审判来了。”
Prophets were instructed saying that you need to tell the people that God's the trial, the calamity from God, the judgment from God is coming.
那这些先知没办法讲这些话。
But we find that for these prophets, they were unable to convey this message.
他就跟百姓说：“没事没事，平安平安。”
And instead, what they said to the people was, "Oh, everything is at peace. Don't worry, everything's fine."
那我们从第5节就可以看到了。
We can see this from chapter 3, verse 5.
那不用没有事啊，平安平安平安。神说审判，他说平安。
The prophets were supposed to talk about the judgment of God, but instead they chanted peace.
所以那个第6节开始就是说，那神的这个亮光要离开这个先知。
Then from verse 6, it starts to talk about how God's light will depart from the prophets.
所以这里也让我们学习到一个重点。
This also helps us to learn a key teaching.
如果我们知道说今天神要我们所讲的话，我们不去讲，我们避讳不讲。
If we know that There are words which God wants us to say, a message which God wants us to convey, but we do not say it.
那你发觉到说，神的这个亮光，真理的亮光会离开我们。
Then we find that the light that comes from God, the light of the truth that God has given to us, will depart from
那
us.
最后呢，你发觉到说，神什么都不跟我们说。
And then in the end, what will happen? We will find that God doesn't even convey anything to us anymore.
就是说，他今天不再指示我们了。
Just like saying that today He will no longer continue to instruct us.
当时的先知呢，神根本就不回答他们所求问的。
For the prophets of that era, we know that we see that God does not respond to their requests
那
anymore.
你如果是这个真先知，你要怎么办？
Now, if you were a true prophet at that time, what would you do?
你是弥迦，你要怎么办？
If you were Micah, what would you do?
一般上有两种反应的。
Generally speaking, there are two categories or two types of reaction.
那就同流合污了。就跟着他们一样了，同流合污。
Okay, so basically you just follow the flow. You go with the flow of the crowd.
因为每个先知都假，我也跟着讲。
Because if all the other prophets are false prophets, then I'll just be another one of the false prophets.
因为他们都不讲平安，他们都不讲审判，我还讲审判干什么？
Because they don't talk about the judgment of God, then what am I doing talking about judgment differently from them?
如果我说审判的话，他们还会打我。
If I say judgment, then they're just going to be angry with me and beat me.
会都攻击我啊！
They will attack me for what I'm saying.
所以为什么要讲审判呢？
So why do I need to talk about judgment?
做好人比较好嘛。
It's a bit easier to be the so-called good guy in this situation.
又有的吃，又有的喝。
You get to eat, you get to drink, life is good.
是不是这样？
Is that not so?
何必那么辛苦啊？
Why do I need to suffer so much?
那你发觉到在这样的情况那他的这个弥迦的心是怎么样的？
In such circumstances, what is the heart of Micah?
第8节就把它讲出来。
In verse 8, he explains.
所以在不同的情况之下，我们发觉到这个先知非常的坚强。
In different circumstances, we see that the prophet of God here, he is always able to be strong.
他是说他充满能力的，是不是这样说？
He says that truly I am full of power.
为什么会充满能力呢？
Why is he full of power?
在这么一个恶劣的环境当中，为什么他能力那么大？
Even in such a difficult environment, why is it that he can still find power?
那我的版本是说，因为神的灵帮助他了。
Now, in my Bible, it says, because the Spirit of God is helping him.
那就是说，如果一个人真的有神的灵住在当中，
Meaning that if someone truly has the indwelling of the Spirit of
他
God,
是顺从神的，
they will submit to God.
虽然在很恶劣的环境当中，
Even though they may be in a very difficult environment,
你发觉到他不会妥协，
you find that they will not compromise.
因为他里头的力量比外在的压力更大。
Because the strength that they had in the inward man is much more powerful than the pressures that they face externally.
所以在这样的情况之下，这先知没有妥协。
Now, under such circumstances, we see the prophet does not compromise.
我们今天可能没有碰到这样的一些情况。
Maybe up until today, we have not yet encountered this kind of situation.
其实，在我们生活当中，有时候我们会面对许多的压力。
But in actual fact, in our daily lives, we often face many kinds of pressure.
那我们发觉到说，这些压力很多时候是从世界来的。
And we find that many of these different pressures come from the world.
我们周遭的人会给我们制造很大的压力。
Those who are around us, they will apply great pressure to us.
有时候他们所做的、所讲的，都是跟我们的信仰有违背的。
Because the things that they say that they do will oftentimes be in conflict with our beliefs.
那我们要怎么办？
Then what do we do?
我们要怎么办？
What should we do?
就好像我们常常跟我们的青年说，
It's like often we say to the youth of the church,
因为他们什么长大了要上大学他们要面对很大的挑战、冲击。
because as our youth grow up, eventually they will get to the university age and they will go out to university, and during this time they will face lots of challenges.
那是根本一个全新的环境对他们来说，
It is a completely new environment for them,
他们没有面对过的。
and they've never faced something like this
那
before.
之前都是在家里有父母有教会的人来关心他们。
Because prior to this point in their lives, they were always at home, perhaps together with their parents. There were always people to be there to look out for them and care for them.
那上大学就自己来了。
But then when you go out to university, often you will, it's basically you look after yourself.
可能要搬家，搬到什么大学的宿舍里头去住。
Maybe you need to move away from home and live in university accommodation.
那他们有没有好像这个先知的决心？
Now the question is, Do our youths have the same kind of determination as the prophet here?
如果圣灵跟我们同在，
If the Holy Spirit is with us
那我们顺从圣灵，
and we submit to the Spirit,
神的力量就会显明。
then the power of God will be manifested in our
我
lives.
们能够得胜，
We will be able to be victorious
因为我们顺从神的旨意。
because we submit ourselves to the will of God.
其实信仰的力量就是在这一时刻产生。
In fact, the power that comes from our faith, it comes in this way.
如果我们人没有顺从圣灵，我们再祷告也没有用。
If we do not submit to the Spirit, then even though we pray, it will not be of any effect.
发觉到说，我们的这个心还是没有办法改变。
And we find that our heart has not changed.
那我们要知道说，我们要学习去顺从神，顺从圣灵。
What we need to learn then is to submit to God, to submit to His Spirit.
那在当时这个米迦是要讲真话，要讲神的话。
So at the time, we know that the prophet Micah, he was to speak the words of God. He was to speak the truth.
那你再看第8节
If we read verse 8,
他要讲什么呢？
what is it he wants to say?
他要把这个雅各家的罪讲出来，还有以色列的罪讲出来。
He is going to declare to Jacob his transgression and to Israel his sin.
我们在念的时候，可能不会感觉到说这个有什么了不起。我们在念的时候，不觉得说这件事有什么了不起的，你讲就讲。
I mean, we may say that, well, okay, I mean, if that's what you want to do, then go ahead and say it. There's nothing
不好
wrong
像
with saying
不好
that.
像我们现在道理讲完了下来，没有人会说什么，顶多是后面骂你几句而已。
It's like today, if you hear a sermon, after speaking a sermon, no one's really going to say anything to your face, and maybe at worst, they would actually just say a few criticisms behind your back.
当时你讲了，跟他们听不爽，就会把你杀掉。
But
当时
yeah, at that time, if you spoke words that the people didn't want to hear as a prophet, then quite likely that they would actually want to kill you.
是不是这样？
Is that not the case?
那你发觉到说，有很多先知都被杀了。
Because during the Old Testament times, lots of prophets were indeed killed by the people.
你看那个列王的时代那时有先知讲真话就被那皇帝宰了。
Look in the times of the kings, then when the prophets, or when a prophet didn't spoke the words of the king against the king, or words they didn't want to hear, then the king would just get him put to death.
所以米迦先知要讲不简单了，他真的是被圣灵充满。
So for Micah being a prophet during this time, it was not that easy for him to proclaim the message of God so directly like this, but he was filled with the power of the
所以
Spirit.
从这里让我们知道说，这个真先知是真的是为了要成就神的旨意。
So what this tells us is that those who are the true prophets of God, they truly want to fulfill the will of God.
那我想说，这也是我们要去学习的。
And I think that this is something that we also need to learn.
那我们神不会让我们吃亏。
And God surely will not allow us to lose out because of this.
那我们做了对的事情，如果我们做的对的事情，
If we are doing things which are right,
神一定会帮助我们的。
then God surely will help us.
我们感谢神，我们弟兄姐妹有不少有这样的体验。
And we know that, thank God, that some of our brothers and sisters, they also have these kinds of experiences.
在生活当中能够真正的靠神让圣灵带领他们。
In their lives, they're able to truly rely upon God and allow the Spirit to lead them.
所以不管他们在什么地方，
So no matter where our brothers and sisters may be,
在家里头，在工作的地方，或者是在教会，
at home, at work, or at church,
都显出了这个神的能力来。
they're able to manifest the power of God in their lives.
所以那些周遭的看到，这个人不一样。
And those who are around them, they will take note and say, "Oh, this person is different."
其实，在旧约圣经有很多这样的例子。
And in fact, in the Old Testament scriptures, there are many of these kinds of
约
examples.
瑟就是一个很好的例子了。
Joseph is a very good example.
那我们查考但以理也知道说这是很好的例子。
If we study Daniel, we also know that he is a very good example.
他们的这个当时的这个什么处在的环境是很恶劣的。
We know that the environment that they were in was a very hostile environment.
有时候我在想
Sometimes I think about this.
他们所处的环境
The environment that they were living in,
应该是比我们的更恶劣，
I think, is even more hostile, more difficult than the environment that we live in.
会不会？
Is that not so?
我们当中有哪一个的环境比那个约瑟的更糟？
Is anyone here living in a sort of a situation which is even worse, more difficult than the life of Joseph?
在监狱里头待了几年？
Have they been in prison for a few years?
我们一般上是说他监狱，我们监狱就把他关起来，其实不是。
Generally, we say that when you're in prison, then you've been locked up, but actually, it's not the case for him.
那个英文是dungeon，中文是叫什么地什么地牢啊，手脚都要锁起来的。
He was in a dungeon. It was like his hands and his feet would have to be in chains.
所以那个诗篇说他们伤了他的脚。
And that's why in the Psalms it describes it as like, because of this, then they have been wounded on their feet.
因为他要带这个东西嘛。
Because their arms and their legs, sorry, they have been harmed or chafed by the chains.
但是他们还是得胜。
But they were still able to be victorious.
为什么
Why?
因为他们真正信神。
Because they truly believe in God.
所以我们今天要操练的是这样的一种信心。
So what we need to do is to train up this kind of faith.
我们要靠神慢慢的操练。
And we need to rely upon God to train up our faith.
那有一天我们能够胜过我们的环境。
And then one day when we will be able to overcome our environment.
而且周围的人都看到我们是神的选民，有神的灵在当中。
And those who are around us will be able to see that we are the people of God, that God is amongst us, God is with us.
好，那我们再来看另外一点呢。
Let's look at another point.
我们看到第6章。
Let's read Micah chapter 6.
第6章
Chapter 6.
好，我们来看这个第6节跟第7节。
Let's read verse 6 and verse 7.
一起念。
Let's read together.
一起念。
第6节。
我常念耶和华，在至高神面前跪拜，但献上什么？岂可献罪的热度为关祭吗？耶和华喜悦捐献的恩典，或是忘了的油和吗？我岂可为自己的罪过献我的长子吗？为心中的罪恶献我生吗？
好，那这个先知好像在反省自己了或者在问自己一个很重要的问题。
At this time, it seems that the prophet is being reflective. He is asking himself a question.
那我们都知道说，当时的世代很罪恶。
We know that the generation that lived at that time were very sinful.
你不要想说那些罪恶的那个百姓他们就不会拜神。
Don't think that the sinful and wicked people, they would not worship God.
他们还是一样去拜神的。
They would still go to worship God in spite of this.
就好像那个以赛亚书嘛。
Just like in Isaiah.
我们说他们是同时期的。
We say that they are contemporaries, as in Isaiah and Micah contemporaries.
那你发觉到说，他们也是去拜神献什么东西，只是神说，你拿回去，我不要你的。
We see that the people, they still seem to go to worship God. They would take their offerings and sacrifices before God, and God just responds by saying, "You take your sacrifices with you. I don't want them."
那第1章是这样讲，对不对
Basically, in chapter 1, that's what it talks about.
好，那你如果是米迦，你会怎么做
So if you were Micah, then what would you do?
你说他献羊我也献羊。
they're offering up a sheep, then I'll offer up a sheep.
他献1头牛，可能我要献2头。
If they are offering one cow or one ox, then I will offer up 2 oxen.
其实当时这个先知也在想这个问题。
At the time, the prophet was thinking about this issue.
他的环境是这样的。
This is the kind of environment he was living in.
那他要怎么办
So what should he do then?
那你发觉到说，他没有去想说别人怎么献，他就要怎么献，没有。
He didn't consider, well, how are other people offering, and I will see how I offer based on that.
他所问的问题就是一种好像自我审查嘛。
What he asked here is kind of like a question of self-examination.
他说神会喜欢这样的东西吗？
He was asking the question, will God really be pleased with something like this?
我要把什么东西带到神的面前
What then should I bring before my God?
他就自己想了很多个例子出来嘛，对不对？
And he thought of, we can see in this paragraph that he thought of many different examples of things he could bring.
那最后他的结论是什么？
What was his final conclusion?
我们念第8节。
Let's read verse 8.
好，我们一起念第8节。
Let's read verse 8.
是然耶和华的意思是你何为善？当下你所要的是什么呢？只要你行公义，好怜悯，存谦卑的心，与你的神同行。
这是他得出的一个结论。
This was the conclusion that he came to.
或者说神向他所指示的一个结论
or the conclusion that God guided him to.
在他这个检讨当中
That in the course of his self-examination,
他得到了一个结论
he received this conclusion.
神要他什么行公义好怜悯，就要跟神谦卑的行走嘛，对不
He
对？
said, what does God require of you but to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God?
这是神所要看的。
These are the things that God wants to see.
那是不是说其他的就不重要了，不需要献给神呢？牛羊不需要献给神呢？
Does that mean to say that means everything else is unnecessary? You don't need to offer up sheep and oxen to the Lord God.
不是的
That's not the point.
那我们献给神的基础是那个基础在哪里？
So when we are wanting to offer up something to God, what is the basis or the foundation of our heart to offer?
首先我们的生命要符合神的要求。
Firstly, that our lives must already be according to the requirements, the standard of God.
我们要行公义，
We need to do justly.
就是说我们所做的每一件事情都是神所喜悦的。
That means that in everything that we do, we are ensuring we are doing something which is pleasing to God.
这是我们要追求的地方。
This is something that we need to pursue after.
如果我们在这些方面来努力，
If we strive in this direction,
其实我们在生活当中就会对神更加的认识。
then we will be able to understand and know God even more in our lives.
那神也要我们好怜悯呢。
And God also wants us to love mercy.
今天的社会是怎么样的一个社会？
What kind of society do we live in today?
专顾自己的社会。
A more self-centered society.
有时候我们不小心，这种风气也会带到这个信仰团体来。
And if we are not careful, then this kind of trend, this kind of pattern will actually enter into the church as
那这样
well.
对教会就不好了。
Then if that happens, then this is not good for the church.
所以我们好怜悯，就是说我们用神的爱来去帮助我们周遭的人。
To love mercy means that we actually utilize the love of God to help those around us.
不单只没有被这个世界的这些潮流来影响，
To make sure not only that they have not been influenced by the tides of the world,
而我们还能够怎么样？以神的爱来去光照别人。
but in fact we are even able to utilize the love of God and shine this light to other people.
这是我们要追求的一个重点。
And this is another point that we need to pursue
所以
after.
我们要问说，在我们生活当中，我们有没有好怜悯？
Thus we need to ask ourselves the question, do I love mercy in my life?
有没有周遭的人有没有因为我的存在而得到神的恩典？
Have the people around me, the people in my life, have they been able to receive the blessings of God through me?
现在我发觉到说，因为我们都很忙
Today we find that we are all so busy.
有时候看起来好像是没有办法解决的一个问题
And sometimes it seems like this is a problem that we cannot resolve.
但是我们要知道一点
But we need to be clear on something.
只要我们有心靠神的话
As long as we have the hearts to rely upon God,
我们的环境一定能够改变。
then our environment surely can change for the better.
更重要的，我们心态也能够改变，
And even more importantly, our attitude should also change.
因为我们所想的是神的事情
Because the things that we think about in life are the things of God.
那我们要追求这个神的这个怜悯
And thus we need to pursue to do the mercy of God.
那还有一点就是说，要跟神呢谦卑的同行
And then next it says to walk humbly with your God.
那要怎么跟神谦卑的同行？
How do we walk humbly with our God?
要怎么同行？神是个灵我们怎么跟他谦卑同行？
How do you walk humbly with God when He is a spirit?
那我们常常是这样说了神在生活当中会带领我们。
We often say that God will lead us in our lives, right?
请问谁是带领者？是神还是我们自己？
Who is the true one who is leading? Is it us or is it God?
神嘛，我们都会说神
We say God, right?
那很多时候我们说神你不要理我了，我自己来。
But often we say, it's almost like we say to God in our hearts, okay, God, thanks, but I think I'll handle this myself.
那就是说你不愿意跟神同行呢？
Meaning that we are not willing to walk together with God.
那换句话说，不愿意遵守神的话。
Meaning, in other words, that we are not willing to adhere to the
有
commandments
时
of
候
God.
要遵守神的话，人需要相当的谦卑
If we want to fulfill or to follow the teachings of God, then we need to be very humble.
不然真的是没办法的
Otherwise, it is very difficult for us to do it.
要怎么跟神行呢？神的原则是这样，
how can we walk with God when we know full well that His principles are like this?
但是我们不愿谦卑来接受，
But we're not willing to be humble enough to accept His principles as they
当
are.
然就没有办法跟神同行
Then of course there is no way in which we'll be able to walk together with our God.
所以我们要去思想我们的生活，
So we need to ponder upon our
我说
lives
检讨我们的生活了。
or evaluate our lives.
你要来问我们自己说，我们到底有没有跟随神呢？
We need to ask ourselves the question, am I truly walking or following God?
那如果有的话，
If we are following God,
那我们发觉到说，我们就是跟神行走，也不会受到环境的影响。
then we find that as we are walking together with God, then we will not be influenced adversely by our environment.
好，我们再来看另外一点
Let's consider another point.
我们看这个第7章。
Let's read Micah chapter 7.
我们看第7章，
Micah chapter 7.
我们念这个第7节。
Let's read verse 7.
第7章的第7节。
Micah chapter 7, verse 7.
我们一起念。
Let's read together.
至于我，我要仰望耶和华，要等候那救我的神，我的神必定应允我。
好，那如果我们看这个上下文
If we consider the context of this verse,
那个信息是什么？
what is the message?
那你看起来说好像在描写说当时的这个人际关系很恶劣。
What it seems to be talking about is that interpersonal relationships have taken a turn for the worse.
比如说在第5节
For example, in verse 5,
你不要相信你的朋友了
don't trust in your friend.
甚至是你的配偶，你也不要太相信。
Even your spouse, then do not trust them.
那比如说，甚至你的儿子
even your son,
那你的这个什么家人
your family members.
都会攻击你的
Why? Because they will even attack you.
那在一个很恶劣的环境，
Now, in a very hostile
我
environment,
们说这个家庭环境变得很恶劣的
let's say a family environment has become a very hostile one.
那你要怎么办？
Then what should we do?
你要怎么办？
What should you do?
你不可以因为别人恶劣，你也变成恶劣
You can't say that because other people are hostile, therefore I will also become hostile.
因为我的哥哥对我不好，所以我也对他不好
Like because my older brother is he mistreats me, then I will also mistreat him back.
那你发觉那时候当时那个米迦怎么说
What did Micah say at that time?
说我在等候神
He said, "Therefore I will look to God.
等候神的救恩
I will wait for God, the God of my salvation."
那说那个时候呢，没有办法改变的这种情况之下，
When-
他是完全投靠神的
Knowing that full well that when he was in a situation that he could not change, then what did he do? He knew that he had to wait for and rely upon God.
有时候我们在这个探访当中知道我们有些弟兄姐妹他们的什么家庭环境很恶劣
Sometimes when we go to visit our brothers and sisters, we get to understand that perhaps their family environment is a little hostile.
或者说有一些家人还没信主
Or maybe certain family members have not come to believe in the Lord yet.
会逼迫那些我们相信的弟兄姐妹
And as a result, they may even persecute the believing brothers and sisters in those
有时候
families.
真的没办法改变，你要怎么去改变
Sometimes it's very difficult. I mean, how would you change this kind of situation? It's
那我们
not
顶
possible.
多可以跟你说你要怎么样，要祷告就这样
At most, what we can really say or encourage is to say, okay, look, we know about the situation.
那
Let's
当
pray
事
about
人
this.
应该怎么样？要全心全意靠神
Well, for that person who is in that situation, what do they need to do? They need to completely and wholeheartedly rely upon God.
就好像米迦一样，
Just like Micah.
他所说的话很重要。
I think the words that he says here are very important for
他
us to note.
全心全意等候神的救恩。
He completely and totally looks toward and waits for the help and salvation of God.
因为只有神才能够改变我们的环境。
Because it is only God who can truly change our environment.
很多时候我们环境不能够改变，我们也有时候觉得很无奈，对不对？
Often when we see our environment is not good and we can't change it, we obviously we feel very powerless.
不懂要怎么做
We don't know what to do.
每天所面对的就是这一些恶劣的 这种事情。
Day in, day out, it seems that we're always faced with this very hostile environment of these people.
那当然这里告诉我们说，首先我们的心要刚强起来，就是要依靠神。
Then what we learn from this is that we need to be strong, and we need to actually rely upon God to help us to be strong.
就是要全心全意的来靠神。
To wholeheartedly, with all our heart and might, to rely upon God.
所以刚才我们所查考的那些重点。
So these key points that I have mentioned just now.
这有时候我们放掉说，先知所讲的话，他自己在讲的话，其实就是要来怎么样教导我们现今世代的信徒，要如何来去面对不同的环境。
What we see is that the words of the prophet, when it seemed almost as though they are just, there's an inner monologue going on, but actually these words are spoken to clarify, to teach, and to advise those of us in these situations right now.
所以我们要怎么说呢？要好像这个弥迦先知。
Therefore, in short, we need to be like the prophet Micah.
不管在什么的情况当中， 环境当中
no matter what situation, what environment we may be in.
我们最重要的是要来遵守神的话，讨神的喜悦。
Most importantly, what we need to do is to follow the words of God, and also to do the things which please God.
那这样我们一定会从神那里得到很大的帮助。
And by doing so, we will surely receive a great help from God.
我们也相信说，只要我们遵照神的话去做，我们一定能够得胜。
We also believe that so long as we follow the words and the teachings of God, then we will surely be victorious.
只要我们在一个很恶劣的环境当中，我们没有离开神，没有得罪神，那已经是得胜了。
Even when we are in a hostile environment, so long as we have not departed from God, we keep doing the things we should do, then we have already been victorious before God.
在神的眼中，我们是一个顺从神的人。
In the eyes of God, we are one who submits totally to God.
我们可以说，我们在神的眼中是一个敬畏神的人。
We can say then that in the eyes of God, we are one who fears God.
所以祈求神帮助我们。
So we ask God to help us all.
让我们能够学习弥迦的榜样。
That we may learn from the example of Micah.
好，我们现在一起来祷告。
Let's all pray together.
我想说，我们就跪着来祷告这一
I
次。
think let's kneel down and pray together.